Good evening. I'd like to welcome all of you all here tonight. We have a full house, which is great. I'd like to welcome you all and call our meeting to order. Kim, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Present.
Ms. Quetch. Here. Mr. Webb.
Here.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Here.
And Mayor Pilkington.
Here. And now I'm going to ask Mr. Webb to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'd like to welcome Britt Bednar to lead us in prayer to open our meeting.
Let's pray. Gracious, compassionate, and righteous Father, you have told us in Scripture that blessed is the man who fears you, who greatly delights in your commandment. Help us to fear you, Lord, and to delight in your written word as we commit to reading it and living by it. Help us also to be gracious and compassionate as you are, by remembering to love our neighbors and to live righteously and to seek to glorify you above all else. I thank you for these men and women who work so hard to represent our town and its citizens. Give them each an added measure of wisdom and discernment as they discuss tonight's agenda. I ask that you, Lord, would cause their hearts to be steadfast and that they would trust only in you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Brett. I will now entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Webb, a second by Mr. Austin. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, can we please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch. Aye. Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
And Mayor Pilkington.
Aye. And now we need to approve minutes from our September 5th, 2023 meeting and our September 21st, 2023 meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Ms. Quetch, a second by Vice Mayor Anderson. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch. Aye. Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
And Mayor Pilkington.
Aye. Moving on to public comments. For public comments, I'd like to remind you that you need to state your name and address, and that if you could please limit your remarks to 3 minutes, that would be wonderful. And we have one person signed up. We have Mr. Eddie Copenhaver.
Eddie Copenhaver, 205 Preston Street, Abingdon, Virginia. Thank you, Mayor Pillion, council members. I'm here tonight to speak about a problem we have with flooding down on Preston Street and Hagee Street. Now, I live on a farm and we have a lot of water. When it rains on my farm, an inch, it's 2.25 million gallons of water. That's 4 Olympic swimming pools full. So I kind of understand about how water works. When I I heard my mom a lot of times talk about the flooding that was going on Hagee Street, and to be honest, I didn't pay much attention to her because I didn't see it was being a problem. But then when I moved down here, I was standing at the kitchen window one morning during the rain, and I was like, good God, look at that water running down the street. And it was kind of cold, so once it warmed up, I started going out and I started seeing where the water was going. And I grew up there. That was where I was born. They moved there when I was 6 months old. So I really do remember how it was. And in front of the house, there is a gutter. And this gutter goes down and it goes into was supposed to go into a 16-inch culvert. And the town at some point put this culvert in because when I was growing up, this was a ditch. So somebody decided to put a culvert in. Now, all the water runs down and it goes in this creek. The question is, how does it get to this creek? All right, you saw the picture of the gutter earlier. This is a gutter with no water in it. This is running down the street in the same rainstorm. I mean, this picture was taken with minutes of each other. Nothing goes down the gutter. It's a lot of water. I don't know if you can see this picture, but it's a lot of water. My neighbors try to have a nice house. I mean, you can kind of see that they decorate their yard, and you can also see the amount of water that they deal with. So if you go down the street a little bit, you come to the old Hiltz garage, and it used to be a storage yard for wrecked trucks. It all goes through there. And I can't believe it, that's not contaminating the water. I've got about 30 seconds. I'm going to leave you with these pictures, and we will talk about it, the rest of it, next time. Y'all have a super good night. Can I
Thank you.
present these?
Yes, sure, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Okay. Is there anybody else who has not signed up but would like to participate in public comments? So now we have one proclamation recognizing October 8th to 14th as Fire Prevention Week. And Mr. Austin is going to read that proclamation for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the town of Abingdon is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our town, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires killed more than 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 184,000 annually between 2016 and 2020, and whereas 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of those fires resulting from unattended cooking, and whereas more than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves, and whereas children under 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking than being burned in a cooking fire. And whereas the town of Abingdon's residents should turn pot handles toward the back of the stove, always keep a lid nearby when cooking, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around the stove, oven, and other things that could get hot, watch what they heat, and set a timer to remind them that they are cooking. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And whereas the town of Abingdon's firefighters are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the town of Abingdon's residents are responsive to public education measures and can take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You, Pay Attention to Fire Prevention, effectively reminds us to stay alert and to use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Therefore be it resolved that Amanda Pillion, Mayor of the town of Abingdon, proclaims October 8th through October 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the town. She urges all the people of Abingdon to check their kitchens for fire hazards, use safe cooking practices during Fire Prevention Week 2023, and to support the many safety activities and efforts of the Abingdon Fire Department.
Thank you so much, and I think we have some members of the fire department here, and we'd like to present you with this proclamation.
Should have had that.
A lot of words, thanks for reading those.
For your kind recognition.
That was good.
Come on over there.
Mayor and members of council, thank you for the proclamation. That's very important to us. Every year we come to you and ask you to do this because anything that you can do to support us helps keep our citizens safe, and that's what's important. I just want to remind you that on October the 14th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the fire station, we're having our open house. We haven't had an open house in many, many years. Our foundation, the Abingdon Firefighters Foundation, is going to provide hot dogs and drinks and chips that day. We'll be having displays of our apparatus. We'll be giving tours of the fire station, talking about what we do and doing demonstrations of what we do. So we invite you, your family, and the public to come out and be with us on October the 14th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now have a public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing. It's a proposed zoning map amendment to rezone the following structures and parcels from B-1 limited business and B-2 general business to OH old and historic tax parcels consisting of 8.584 acres. And I'm not going to read all of this because there's a list of a lot of properties. But I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mayana Rice and let her talk to us about this.
All right, well, thank you very much. Today, Gabe and I met with a graduate student named Maggie Campbell, and one of the things that she asked us was, well, she asked us a lot of things, but one of the things that she said was, you know, kind of what do you think makes Abingdon special? And I think both Gabe as well as myself, you know, we kind of launched right into, it's the historic things that we have. We could be any other dot on the map, but because we have valued, because we have treasured, because we have saved all of the historic district that we have, and we were talking to Betsy White actually today that some things had been burned in the past, and you know, hearing that whole story, I think that, and what we told Maggie was that the historic district sets us apart. It sets a tone to our community. It is our #1 asset that we have. We have many other wonderful things as well, but this really is something that we should protect. So 2 years ago, you know, we were talking with the HPRB, and they said, you know, we'd like to look at some of the structures that have become historic. So basically, as 50 years roll by, we get more and more historic structures. And so we said, well, yeah, let's take a look. So the areas that we picked out were larger than this, and we looked at it together and we said, well, what makes the most logical sense from the point that we are now to the next point on the map? And so with that, the decision was made to look at the 300 block of East Main Street. And to put it kind of in context, it basically is from Rain Restaurant to the Girl in the Raven. So it's that next section. As we were looking at that area, we have a resident in our community named Dave Dalton, and he has some structures on Park Street. And you all might have known that, you know, he moved a structure that was going to be demolished and saved it. And he said, well, I also would like to be in the old and historic district. It gives you some benefits. Setbacks are different there. There's a lot more flexibility for those types of things. Some of his redevelopment projects really are focused on being close to the property boundaries. And so he said, sure, join on in. So the two areas that have this long list of parcels that were not read are the 300 block of East Main Street and a couple of structures on Park. So the process that, and why we're here tonight, is that the process starts with us putting out basically an inquisition letter. We said, are you interested? If you have any reason to come before us and oppose this, now's your time. So we sent those letters out, and we had a presentation at the Historic Preservation Board. We did not have any opposition. So the next layer that we took it to was the Planning Commission. Again, more letters out. We posted it at all the property edges, and again, we had no opposition. And so at this point, what you all would be looking at tonight is actually what we call a zone map amendment. So it's saying these are zoned the way they are now, and if you all were to recommend approval, you'd be amending the zoning map to make these areas into Old and Historic District. So with that, I won't go into all of the parcels either, because there's quite a few of them. But I will say that some of the ways that you look at whether or not it, a rezone makes sense is you go back to your comprehensive plan, and that should be your guiding document. So I'll just read a couple of the standards that support this. The first one, the town's standard for preservation will maintain the look and feel of its historic districts while allowing for economically viable reuse of structures. Abingdon will have a thriving tourism economy built upon three main pillars: the arts, history, and outdoor recreation. The town will have a wide variety of options such as lodging, restaurant experiences, retail tours, and culinary events to meet the needs of visitors of all ages and interests. And I'd say we can all agree that a lot of that happens in our Old and Historic District. Abingdon will invest in activities, amenities, and experiences to meet the changing needs for repeat and new travelers. And Abingdon will grow its economy by helping a wide range of local and regional entrepreneurs and businesses prosper. And again, all of those things happen in our Old and Historic District. And so tonight, what we are presenting to you is the expansion. And looking back at the meeting on 8/28/2023, the Planning Commission was presented with the request, and in a unanimous motion, we had approval from all of the attendees on that night. So with that, I do have a previous member of our HPRB that is here tonight to speak, and hopefully tell you the same thing, that the support is here by both the community as well as the HPRB members for expanding the Old and Historic District. And the lovely packet that was put together with all of the different structures that you see in there was done by Gabe, our senior planner, so you can thank him. He did a very thorough job of looking at the history of each of the structures that we would be adding. So.
Thank you, Brown. Good evening, Bob.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Byram Giesler. I reside at 228 East Main Street, and I am a former member of the Historic Preservation Review Board, and I am here tonight to speak in favor of this ordinance change. Just to echo a little bit of what Maya said, I don't think anyone could deny that the Historic District is not just a wonderful thing to have in the town, but really an economic engine. It's really amazing to me the amount of tourism we receive, the amount of national attention. When I first moved to the Historic District in the year 2000, there weren't people walking around downtown. There weren't, the town was pretty much dead on weekends, and it's just amazing over the last 10 years how much that has changed. I mean, I walked from the house down here tonight. I passed several groups that had the little brochures out, and we're looking at the buildings, and we're walking around, and that's just if you live in town or in town frequently, you see that as a commonplace occurrence. We're definitely a thriving town, and that's great. So the Historic Preservation Review Board did look into this issue of, should we expand? If so, where? And as you may be aware, we have one of the oldest historic districts in the state. Ours was formed, I believe, in the early 1970s. And then somewhere along the way, the State of Virginia Department of Historic Resources did an in-depth survey of Abingdon and made a building-by-building determination of contributing structures, important historic structures. And that footprint is larger than our historic district footprint. And some of the main areas where the state determined that there are a significant number of contributing historic structures are in these areas where, we as an Historic Preservation Review Board thought it would be a good idea to expand. So we had a Historic Preservation Day last fall and really targeted people that own property in those areas to come to that meeting and, hear what we had to say about expanding and express any concerns. And we had a fairly good turnout. It was almost 100% favorable. You heard Mariana say that we've had, this before the Historic Preservation Review Board and before the Planning Commission, and there's not been any opposition. So I think the people of the town recognize how valuable and important the historic district is, and would ask that you pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron.
Do we have any more comments or any more discussion? If not, I will close the public hearing. We have no resolutions. We do have a first reading of an ordinance, and it's an ordinance to amend the zoning map classification for parcel numbers. And it's all of these parcel numbers. Should I read them, or? It's indicated on the agenda. Do I have a motion? I guess, so with the first reading of an ordinance, we can either go ahead and move to adopt the ordinance, or we can go to a second reading at our next meeting.
I would like to go ahead and put the motion in to go ahead and adopt it, to go ahead and get that ball rolling.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second. So, Mr. Anderson, your motion is to waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance as presented?
Yes, sir.
So we have a motion to waive the second reading and to adopt the ordinance as presented by Vice Mayor Anderson and seconded by Mr. Webb. Is there any discussion?
I would like to say personally, as you all know, we bought a 1906 house in the historic district and have been in a 13 or 14-month renovation. Part of my inspiration came from serving on the Historic Preservation Review Board with Byram. Those guys and gals do a fantastic job. Despite what people think sometimes, they're there to help you. There's very specific guidelines, but they're very easy to follow if you know what you're doing. So I encourage anybody who wants to approach a historic preservation to definitely look at these properties, and I really appreciate what y'all have done.
Derek, I'll second everything you said. I'm now on the Historic Preservation Board. I work with Byron, Mariana, and Gabe really a lot, and they really know what they're doing. So I've got faith in everyone. I've got faith in this, what we got going on here.
Okay. Any more discussion? If there is none, Kim, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch. Aye. Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
And Mayor Fillion.
Aye. We have no second reading of ordinances, and we have no bids to consider. I would like to say that I've had some questions, and seen some questions voiced publicly recently about how we handle ordinances and that sort of thing. And so I would just like to remind the public that generally our agenda is available prior to the meeting online. So any citizens who have any concerns or who are interested in what we're talking about, please go to the Town of Abingdon Facebook page or to the Town of Abingdon webpage and review the agenda. Generally, we read the ordinance for the first time, and we welcome public comment if people have questions or concerns about the ordinance. And if there seems to be any controversy or any discussion at all, we go to a second reading. So that is all advertised well in advance, and we welcome comments, and we welcome any concerns the public may have. So if you're concerned about things that we're making decisions on, pay attention and come in and talk to us or call one of us, and we'd love to talk to you about it. That being said, we have some new business. We have a presentation on behalf of the Barter Theatre, and we have Ms. Katie Brown, who's the producing artistic director, to come and speak to us.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Town Council, staff. I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint. Aha, there it is. Beautiful. I'm here today to thank you all for your support for Barter Theatre and to let you know about the impact that tourism support is having at Barter. I want to talk just a little bit about, the overview of what we do, which many people may know, but some people at home and other places may not know, and then talk a little bit about this year as well. Most people know about our professional performances that we do throughout the year to bring people to town. We're very proud not only of the excellence of the work, but we're one of the only resident theaters in the country, which means these actors come and artisans come from all over the country and relocate here, live and work here. And the fact that we run in repertory, again, very, very rare nationally, means that somebody can come in for a weekend and see 4 plays if they want to. Many people probably also know about our Barter Players. We do a lot of shows for young audiences, both here at the theater and also on regional tours, national tours. We want to make sure that people are growing up with great art right here. We also have some incredible education programs. Barter's Young Playwrights Festival, if you're not familiar with it, we've had thousands and thousands and thousands of high school students learn to write plays and then have them presented on the Barter stage. And if you ever get a chance to come, it'll be October 30th this year. It's like a pep rally for literature. High schoolers come from all over the region and pack the theater to hear each other's work. It's really, really exciting. We also have our College Playwriting Festival, a more professional weekend-long version of that, where college students and their families come in February from around the region to study playwriting and see their works performed here as well. We're also engaged in telling Appalachian stories, making sure that we are producing and creating new work every single year that tells authentically what really, really happens in Appalachia, not people's idea of what that is. And our Appalachian Festival of Plays and Playwrights is over 20 years old. People come from all over the country. It's one of the real premier playwriting development processes in the South at this moment, so we're very proud of that. And a newish program to us, Black Stories, Black Voices, where we collect with permission around this region the stories of Black Appalachia and then share those with Black playwrights around the country who are then writing monologues, scenes, and as of last night, our first full-length play. We're building the Black Appalachian canon and helping shine a light on exciting stories that are here in this region. One of the things that makes Barter Theatre so special is that it was founded on this. It was one of the very first theaters that said it was not just people in cities that deserve great art. It was one of the very first places, 1933, Robert Porterfield said, I think everybody deserves that. And coming here and making sure that it's available for everybody. And we have been doubling down on that as a part of the last few years. We always have Pay What You Will, which is the very first performance. If anybody out there wants to come see a Barter show and doesn't know if they can afford it, come to that first show. You can pay $1 if you want to. We also do barter days, so people can trade food that goes to Feeding Southwest Virginia to see a show. We make sure there's $20 seats available for every performance, so everybody come on out and see us. We also want to make sure that people who are hard of hearing, we have open caption performances for every show that we do with our resident company. We also do sensory-friendly performances for people in the autism community. That's going on for all the Barter Player shows that happen at Smith Theater. We want to make sure that kids right here are also enjoying things in addition to people coming from around the region. So like I say here, 23 Washington County schools, and we offer free tickets that to students that are on the free and reduced lunch program. There are so many in this region, we can't afford to take care of every last one of them, but a big portion of those tickets every year we just give to those students. We don't want anybody left behind at their schools. The economic impact is really why I'm here to talk about. These numbers come from Destination Services. We had an outside company do an economic impact study. we are able to quadruple any dollar invested in Barter Theatre to make sure that that goes out into the community. This is an annual number, $34 million in direct and indirect spending every single year as of this last report. 565 jobs, and the taxes generated is around 4.5 million every single year. So we are aware that the job that we are doing is important to people, not just from an artistic standpoint, but that it's our responsibility to make sure that we are helping make the economy as strong as it can be here. I want to talk about last year and this year. So we're very proud to serve this region, but it's only a sliver of what we do. You can see here 13%, but we've been working, especially after Dr. Magnini came and built the strategic tourism plan for Abingdon. We know that bringing people from outside of here has more impact dollars-wise on our tax base, meals and lodging, how many people are in the restaurants, how many people are in hotels, and we've been working to improve upon this. So this is where we were in 2022. We'll build another one of these from these years, but I want to talk to you about the progress of it. We've been specifically also targeting the over 100 miles, because that means they need to stay overnight, which helps us all in an even stronger way. So one of the things that we did we were working with the Tobacco Commission, but also Town of Abingdon. We worked with a PR firm we started in the last few years, working nationally to get Abingdon and Barter Theatre out there in a national way. And really the first year it was just a little bit, but now after that year of investment, we've been seeing so many things come through. As you see here, over 40 press stories around the country featuring Abingdon and Barter. Many of you may have seen our PBS NewsHour. They did a great big piece on us there that focused on all of the programming in Abingdon itself. We just had an Associated Press article come out focusing on the theaters are struggling all over the world and all over the country, and Barter is staying stable, and they actually did a feature on us nationally. NBC News, Southern Living, Garden and Gun, all of these came through this PR firm that part of your investment is helping to happen. These are some of the places, as opposed to just national stories, these are also very specific to these areas where we had pieces about Abingdon and Barter. Here's some more travel stories that have come through. You can see the names here of different places. And just last week, we were named TripAdvisor's Traveler's Choice Award, a prestigious award at Barter that lasts for the lifetime of the organization. So we want those travelers, we want them here filling up everybody else's businesses as well. Here's some of the, we've been looking at how to track what that's doing for us. And it's not just we've also changed the way we're doing our digital marketing and who we're focusing on, but you can see this 70% increase from last year to this year in those regional tickets, people that are coming from farther away to spend dollars here. Again, we want to serve who's here. We really, really care about that, but bringing people in is going to be incredibly important. So we're excited about these numbers. Also, those of you who come to the theater know I give a curtain speech every night where we welcome people from around the world who's here from the furthest distance. And this is just the first half of the year. This doesn't even count our fall rep yet, but just people from outside of the lower 48 that have been coming, and we have a further list that's growing. But just it's exciting to see people coming to our town from all over the world. Some things from 2023, we have 17 different productions that we're doing, which is a wild number for theater. When you talk to other people in the theater biz, they think this is a wild number. 32% increase in patrons from last year, which as you all know, we've really been working to get back from COVID numbers. 25,000 more people this year than last year is what we're on track to do. And a lot of those are in the regional bucket. Fantastic. I just wanted to wrap up and say that the town's investment in tourism through Barter Theatre, we are proud to be a part of that. We are proud to be bringing more people to town, and we want to be able to continue to do that. So thank you so much for your partnership, and just wanted to be able to give you that update. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have an update regarding Johnston Memorial Hospital from Ballad Health. And we have John Jeter, the Chief Executive Officer of Bristol Regional Medical Center, and Brian Mullins, who's the Administrator and Chief Operating Officer for Johnston Memorial Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pillion, Council. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you guys this evening and provide an update for your hospital in Abingdon, Johnston Memorial Hospital. I'm John Jeter. I am the CEO at Bristol Regional Medical Center, but also the CEO at Johnston Memorial Hospital. I've served here in Abingdon for the last 12 years now, and am honored to be a part of that facility. I will tell you, JMH has been a force in this community for over 100 years. I really enjoyed Katie's presentation. We're also the longest tenured sponsor of the Barter Theatre at Johnston Memorial Hospital, and we're very, very proud to be a very vital and force in this community. I will say that here at JMH and really globally, healthcare is in one of the toughest moments that we ever have in our memory. And I'm happy to be here. I guess this is the first time we've been here since the COVID pandemic that we had across the globe. It not only impacted globally, but certainly our healthcare in our community here in Abingdon. I will say that our performance through the pandemic, we're proud of our performance. It was very difficult times. You all need to know that we cared for some of the very sickest patients in our entire region at JMH. We had, at various times, we had the highest percentage of COVID patients. I think over 40% of our patients at certain times during the pandemic were COVID patients at JMH. We had the highest documented acuity many times of COVID patients in our region. And so the physicians, the nurses, the clinical team that took care of our community, you need to be proud of them, and you need to appreciate the great work that they did. I will say that when I say it's one of the most difficult times in healthcare, one of the primary things that we dealt with has really been workforce challenges. And what I wanted to start with an update is just many of the investments that Ballad Health has made in workforce over the last few years. Since May of 2019, we have invested in our workforce by increasing hiring rates for nurses, plus increases for bedside nurses and support staff. We've launched a lot of special bonuses, recruitment incentives, developed new child care centers, family affinity programs, and we've worked to augment the pipeline for new regional healthcare workers. We've doubled the annual wage increases for all of our team members. We doubled the on-call pay rates. These adjustments, Ballad historically has ran a $250 million operating EBITDA cash flow. That is not a margin. That is just operating cash flow. And we are a not-for-profit system, and I don't think I need to provide the education, but you need to make a margin to survive in business. That is, and the way that we use that operating cash flow is, first of all, to pay our bondholders, second of all, to reinvest into the facilities through capital. And we have nearly spent over half of our operating EBITDA now in wage increases. So we're making investments. They're a different kind of investment. They're investment in our workforce, not necessarily the capital that you see and the equipment that you see, but we have certainly made tremendous investment in wages across Ballad Health. Our average hourly rates have gone up. This past year, we increased our rates 4%, which compared to where we were running, which was 2% per year, 4% is a significant increase across Ballad Health. Our hiring rates have gone up significantly for our frontline nurses. And we've also seen improvement in our team member engagement scores, as well as improved culture of safety results, I believe, as a result of the investments that we've made. Here locally, first of all, Ballad is one of the most transparent health systems in the world, and much of our quality data is out there, readily accessible. If anyone wanted to go right now and pull data and fact check any of this, you're welcome to. We have to publicly report so much. There's not another health system in the United States that reports the amount of information that we report about our performance. But I wanted to share with you all our turnover rates that we have. You will see in FY22, our annualized turnover rates were 27.5% at JMH. That is nearly 30% of our workforce that we turned over. The very next year, in 2023, you'll see we dropped that to 19.9%. It's a significant improvement that we've seen in reducing workforce turnover. Currently through August, we're actually down to 18.7%, so we're seeing great improvement there. For frontline nurses, annualized benefited RNs, we went from 22.4% down to 15.6%, and you'll see year-to-date, when we annualize our year-to-date turnover, it's 7%. So we have made not only significant investments, but we are working to really reduce the turnover that we see in our hospitals. Also, the results of that, this is our HCAHPS. These are inpatient nursing communication scores where we survey our patients. This is nursing communication for the last year, and I want you to see we're now hitting 87, 88%, always communicating well with our patients. This is 98th percentile, y'all, in the United States, hitting these kind of scores. And this is not a blip or oh, that was really awesome. This is really hard work that our nursing team is engaging in to better communicate with our patients at JMH, to better communicate with their families, to better communicate with the community right here in Abingdon and Washington County, Virginia. We've seen significant improvement just in the last year around our sepsis and pneumonia mortality. Our sepsis mortality went from 9.7 to 8.6%. Year over year. Our pneumonia mortality went from 8.3% down to 4.99%. That's 50% of what it was just a year ago. And so our results through the pandemic, we're not proud of all those results. Our patients waited too long in the ER. We know that. We did not communicate as well as we needed to. We didn't have the staff that we needed, but we're making progress. Our left without being seen rate in our ER. These are patients that sought treatment at JMH in our emergency room and left before they were even seen by a physician, went from 3.35% last year to half of that, 1.59% this past year. Significant improvement. We're making a priority of this. Our ED throughput, we were at 895 minutes for patients to get upstairs in a bed just over a year ago. This past month we were down half of that, 415 minutes. We are making this a significant priority. I would like to mention a few other things here. U.S. News and World Reports, they are one of the most respected hospital ranking systems. We have been rated as high performing in heart failure, COPD, kidney failure, and pneumonia. We also, for heart attack care and treatment, Quattros named JMH in the top 10% of hospitals in the nation for medical excellence for heart attack treatment in 2023, their CareChex Award. Also, Becker's Hospital Review, one of the most respected industry periodicals that come out, a healthcare journal, named JMH one of the 100 hospitals to know for great heart programs in 2023. You may think, well, John, gee, you guys paid to be able to say that. No, we didn't. We might have paid to use the U.S. News and World Report logo, but we didn't pay for the acknowledgement. And I just want to say that we're very, very proud of these outcomes. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Mr. Brian Mullins. Brian is our Chief Operating Officer and Administrator at JMH. He's been at JMH nearly as long as I have, but thought he might be able to provide a few other updates to you all related to our investments here in our group.
All right, thank you, John. And, certainly glad to be here tonight. And one of the things that I'm really proud to be a part of Abingdon. And you guys, Abingdon has hit the Southern Living magazine one more time. So it's always just a pleasure to be a part of the community. One of the things that I want to talk about is the investment that we have in technology. We actually just put in a 1.5 Tesla MRI. That went live as of the 18th of September. So it's the latest, greatest technology as far as MRIs are concerned. If you've ever had an MRI, you know how tight those are. The good thing is this one's got the biggest bore that you can get. We actually also improved on time on table. So if you've ever had one, every minute that you're on that table it's painful. And as far as just having to hold still, and again, it's really tight a lot of times depending on the type of procedure you're having. So that certainly haven't been able to have that time on the table. So typically we went about 40 minutes. We're running 15 to 20 minutes per procedure, which means we can do more MRIs, number one, but also just a lot quicker for our patients. That was about a $2 million investment actually into the community. The other thing that we just got word from Ballot as of Friday was we're getting one of the Da Vinci robots, which is, you know, one of the general surgery robots. You use it for urology, you use it for OBGYN. You see less length of stay, less complications. If you've ever had a chance to see one in person, a lot of times they'll bring them in and let people sort of play around with them. It's just amazing the level of clarity that you have if you're able to go in and actually see what they're doing, like especially for hernia type repairs. Of course, like I said, GYN procedures and urology procedures. The other thing that we got word of is on Friday we are getting an ion pulmonary robot, and that robot is made by Da Vinci, the same group that does the Da Vinci. And the neat thing about that robot, it allows us to do biopsies on sub-centimeter nodules, which is something we've never been able to do before. It's very hard to do that. So a lot of times you're just sort of watching those patients. The thing about lung cancer is if you get a biopsy on a lung cancer patient late stage, that's stage 3 or stage 4, it's about a 7% 5-year mortality rate. If you're able to get it stage 1 or stage 2, it's a 62% mortality rate. So certainly we feel like that'll give us an opportunity to really be able to impact lung cancer in our area. We are one of the first facilities in the system to get it. We'll be getting one. Johnson City will get one this year. The other things that we have available are Mako hip and knee robots. So again, with those, they're used for orthopedics. Dr. McGarry uses it. Dr. Hommel uses it. Again, Dr. Phillips. There's a lot of orthopedists that use that. More precise, less complications with those procedures. And then we actually have also been approved for 2 new CT scanners this year. One will go in our radiation oncology area, and then the other one will actually go into our main CT area. And with that one, we hope to also offer heart flow, which instead of having a cardiac cath, you can actually have a CT, and it'll visualize those vessels for us. So it's pretty cool. And then the last thing, Philips PAC system. Again, that's just a system. All the imaging films used to be films, are now everything's digital. So those things are actually reside on one unit, and that'll be the same unit throughout the system. There's 3 systems right now. We have McKesson, Bristol and Kingsport have AGFA, and then Johnson City has GE. So to be able to put that all on one archive, that means no matter where you have your x-ray at, no matter where that physician is in the system, they can pull that up and look at those x-rays. Let's see. Okay, as far as investing in the communities, we do have some physicians that we've been successful in recruiting. I don't know if any of you guys have met Shannon Blevins, but she is a neurologist that offers outpatient neurology at JMH. She's from Chilhowie, so she actually was working down in Georgia and came back to us, so that she's been a really good addition. We have been able to hire 3 OBGYN, Dr. Ashwin Chandra, he's one of our residents that came back to us, Dr. Kublon, and then Dr. Ken Baker. Both of those guys have a ton of experience. Also, the hospitalists, we have 3 new hospitalists. Carl Chodas, Dakota Robertson, again, one of our residents, and then Brian Stillner. And then for family medicine out at the campus, we have Selena Payne. She actually joined us about a month ago. And then, I don't know if you guys were familiar with Tony DeSalvo. He's a HEMOC doctor for us. He'll be coming back this summer, as well as we have a local guy from Kingsport, Wes Anderson, who's going to be joining us for interventional cardiology. And then down below you can see we're recruiting GI, primary care, OB, HEMOC, pulmonology, and general surgery. So just a lot going on there. With the robot, the general surgery and OB really makes a big difference in recruitment. A lot of those folks They train on those units, and so if you know, when you start to talk about them coming into the community, if you don't have that available, then that's obviously an issue. One of the other things that we're doing is investing in the future with our residency programs. We offer 3 residency programs at JMH. We have the dental residency program. That's headed by Dr. Scott Miller and Michael McCracken. And then we also have a family practice residency program as well as an internal medicine residency program. So we actually have 41 residents at JMH. And when we talk about investing in the future, the rule of 3 is typically with the residency program, what you'll see is 1/3 of those residents will stay wherever they train. 1/3 will stay in the region that they train in, and then 1/3 will leave. So, by bringing these folks in, again, hopefully we're able to sort of raise our own as far as the physicians as well as the dentists. And we've actually seen that. I pointed out in the last slide several of the physicians that actually are working for us right now. So it's really been a great program for us. Last thing, investing in the community. When you look at what we're giving back, obviously we're involved in a lot of different things. Barter Theatre being one of them, William King, Breast Cancer Foundation. We have a diaper program at JMH, so any of our mothers that have a baby there at JMH, we actually provide about 6 months worth of diapers for those folks. So again, just a lot of different things that we offer. Okay, any questions?
So, great job, guys. Thank you, Stacy, for keeping them in line while they're here. But I do have a question, a serious question though. Being in retail pharmacy, being on the campaign trail, you hear all kinds of rumors and so on and so forth, being a council member. And someone said to me the other day that they'd heard rumors about ballads selling out or merging. Is there any credence to that, or?
No.
Okay.
No. It has been a rumor. We've heard, again, the rumor down at Holston Valley is, I think Covenant's buying them, and with us it's Carillion. I mean, there is no, there's nothing to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can jump in. I will tell you what Mr. Levine said when I asked him that point blank. He just looked at me and he said, "John, Ballot Health is not for sale." And I don't know why those rumors persist. It's hard to predict some of that, but many of the systems that are rumored to be acquiring Ballot, if you look at their financial performance, their quality performance, their bond ratings, we are actually in a much stronger position than nearly every one of those other systems. So we're not for sale.
I kind of figured as much. I just figured I'd throw that out there. You know how it goes.
Yeah, one thing I would say too, I've been at JMH since 2013, and I've seen a lot of change, and we've all seen a lot of change in healthcare. We've seen it with I first started at Norton Community, ended up with Mountain States, and then obviously now we're back our Ballot. But it's still the same folks. It's your brothers and sisters and mothers and children that are working at our hospital serving the community, and there is no lessening in that commitment to the community. I can tell you that. I mean, I think when a lot of times people think as organizations might get bigger, that's not the case, but it certainly is the case. One of the things that we're very proud of at JMH is the culture that we have, and again, that culture is based off of being very much patient-oriented and family-oriented, and it's just a great culture. I've worked in a lot of the different hospitals throughout the system, and I would say that JMH has certainly been my favorite, and again, it's because of the folks in our community that we get to serve, and certainly the team members that live in our community that work there. So it's just been a really, really great organization.
Well, I would personally like to thank you while you're here. I never got a chance to say it out loud, but on the record, I'd like to thank all 3 of you all for working with us on the inclusive playground. It turned out to be a spectacular, it's just a jewel of a playground in the middle of the sports complex, and we certainly couldn't have done it without y'all's contribution. So thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming to talk to us. Okay, we have no old business on the agenda. I will move on to communications from our town manager, Mr. Mike Cochran.
Yes, thank you. First, and most importantly, the banner poles. Banner poles, we signed the contract this morning to get the paperwork done, the engineering done. We've had a couple issues actually getting to where we had something we could build. And so just this morning, it's a matter of finding the right supplier and getting the engineering done. And so it was finalized this morning, so that's been executed. Now it's just a matter of getting all the specs together. But that is in process. It's just something that once a month, Mr. Austin reminds me that. And so this morning, actually yesterday, I asked Mayana where we were at. She's like, I already got the answer, so we're good. But so just this morning, we did sign off on that. So that actually is in process. It's just a matter of, once we get the engineering, the specs will come out, and then they will actually get installed, and our staff will wind up installing those things. One point that did come up was the issue on Preston Street, and I did have an engineering study done on that, and I do have the hydrology reports on that. So we are aware of it. We've met with him, Mr. Copenhager, and like I said, we had engineers. What I didn't want to do was just, well, let's try this. That doesn't work. Let's try this, because when you move water, it always goes somewhere else, and so we wanted to make sure we weren't adversely impacting other people. And so we did do the study, and the study didn't show that some of the suggested fixes weren't actual fixes. And so that's why when we do these things, we like to have the engineers involved. And so I do have that report. I can share that with anybody who's interested in seeing that. Tourism. So I spoke to several different residents around, and I hear from people. And the tourism I hear from people is, I've lived on Main Street for a long time, and I'm seeing couples walking down the street in the middle of the week holding hands that you just didn't see before, and they're seeing it. And so it really is neat. I've talked to Tanya this afternoon about the tourism numbers for the last month, and they're just solid. We have hotels with better than 80% occupancy, which is really incredible. So, a lot of it's just the small little things that we do, and they all just add up. And we just had it's just really a fine time to be in Abington. And with regard to the Barter, you can go to New York City and see a play, or you can come to Abington.
Yeah.
I'll go to the Barter. Thank you very much. So, and then the other thing we have is the Virginia 250. About a year ago, we had someone come forward and ask to represent the town on the Virginia 250, and unfortunately, there's been some health issues, and so I spoke to her last week. And the Virginia 250 is the state is celebrating the 250th anniversary of the country, and there's a lot of different things that are happening all over Virginia, and Abington really has cool history. There's a lot of places, I drive around a lot, you see things, we actually have the history. And so, in talking with Betsy White from the museum, she has agreed to help us along this process. And so what I'm asking for is, we have a resolution or just a support from council to put Miss Betsy White, as our town representative on the Virginia 250. And there's a whole website on it, so if you just Google search Virginia 250, you'll see there's a whole list of different things that are going on all over the state. And it's each year there's little tiny grants that you can put forward, but it'll allow us to put some things together as a town. And we have a really amazing history with the frontiersmen and things like that that have happened. And a lot of that history just isn't known, and so we want to make sure that it's known and we put it forward and get it out there. So what I would ask is if we can get just support for a motion or a resolution to support the submission of Betsy White to represent the town on the Virginia 250.
I'd make that motion. I can't think of anybody any better than Betsy White to represent the town.
I second that.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion to appoint Betsy White to head up the Virginia 250 efforts was made by Mr. Webb and seconded by Vice Mayor Anderson. Do we have any discussion? There's no discussion. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion?
Aye.
And that's all I have. Your actual printed out monthly report, I'll have to you at the end of the week, because with the schools being off, I have some. But I'll get to you. Thanks.
Okay, now let's move on to council member reports. Does anybody have anything to say?
I'll start first, if that's all right.
Go for it.
Got a couple of things. First of all, Susan and Rick Humphreys just got back from a successful trip to Richmond, where they received a Preservation Virginia Award. And there were several other people that was actually also mentioned as well in the Preservation Virginia newsletter from the town of Abingdon. And they were Emmett Erie, Janet Woolwine, Alex Martin, Will Johnson, Byram, who was just here just a moment ago as well, Jill and David Dalton. All of these people have gone above and beyond their efforts to preserve Abingdon and to make Abingdon a better and pretty place to live, as well as a great place to visit. A couple of things that's going to be going on in the town of Abingdon this week, I thought I would just throw out there. The Sweet Bay Brewing Company is going to have their Oktoberfest this Saturday. That will be at 3 p.m. They'll be hosting a giant pretzel eating contest down there, I heard. Also, the Holston Mountain Artisans, excuse me, I might have said that wrong, Holston Mountain Artisans, they'll be doing their things this Saturday as well. And that will be from 10 p.m. until 4 p.m. And that's going to be located at 214 Park Street. As everyone else knows, Porto Nuevo got their alcohol license back, so that's a big step for the town of Abingdon. The other restaurant besides the Abingdon Cinema, Papa Julio's, is now open for business. I think that they had a slow opening Friday, but I've talked to several people that has been there, and they've said that everything's really great there. So if you want to try out a new restaurant, please go there and try that out as well.
Anyone else?
I would like to say just very quickly that I had the opportunity to go to the first annual Kim Andis Memorial Cancer Outreach fundraiser, car show / all that stuff together on Main Street, and it was fantastic. It was a great turnout. There were people everywhere, tons of cars, I think 125 or 50 cars. They raised over $6,000 for cancer outreach. The event itself was super well received, and what a great cause for that. And I saw Mayor Pillion there as well. We had a good time walking around. But I think that events like that are really what set Abingdon apart. And I heard no complaining at all whatsoever. The town staff did a great job. I saw all sorts of staff there on the clock and off the clock, just having a good time. It was very, very well run, and I just want to thank everybody involved and just say that was a great event.
And people stopped us both and said thank you to the town for helping with this.
Absolutely.
So it was a great event.
Great. And then also want to remind everybody about our Halloween event coming up on the 28th. That was really a surprisingly well received event last year. I think we all knew it would be good, but we didn't realize it was going to generate 30-some hundred people in town. So I fully suspect that this year, the 28th, that's going to be a huge event. And what a safe event, a way for the community to get involved with the children, with the families alike. So you can look for all of us out there, I'm sure, and hopefully everybody will come out for that.
October the 12th, Historic Preservation Day, town of Abingdon. That will start at 10 o'clock. And also, last week we had the Yeti race in the town of Abingdon. I don't know if anybody goes on the Creeper Trail, but I think that they said they had about 300 people that were in the race, maybe 340 if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
The race was actually won by a gentleman by the name of Barry Thomas, was the overall winner of that. So there was a lot of people in the town of Abingdon, and I thought that went off really well. I think the gentleman who hosted, his name is Jason Green. I thought he done a very, very well job of organizing that and seeing everything through to that.
Yeah, and
Very
if
well.
you saw anybody walking around, kind of staggering around like a zombie, that was somebody who finished the 100-mile.
Yeah,
pretty
that's
much.
exactly right.
I know
That's right.
Jason has done a fantastic job with his races.
Yes, he has.
It truly is just a spectacular event. If you've never seen a 100-miler, you ought to go out and walk some of the trail while those people are running. It is incredible.
And I think he finished with like a record-breaking time. I'm
Yeah,
not for sure,
yeah,
but
I think it was great, and Jason, I ran into him yesterday morning, and he told me that nobody died during the race.
There you go.
So he considered it a great success.
I'm sure if I tried to run 100 miles, I probably would die. So, that is a success. So I went to a presentation by the Virginia 250 organization last week, and it was really, really interesting, and it's exciting. And since then, I have learned that the town of Abingdon also turns 250 years old during that interval. They're going to have events that start in 2025, and I'm pretty sure that their first big event is going to be in Austinville, which is just over toward Wytheville. And they're going to celebrate the signing of the Fincastle resolutions, which I did not know about very much, but I've been educated. And then it's going to go all the way through 2031. So our birthday, the town's birthday, is right in the middle of that interval. So we need to get really creative and come up with some fun events to celebrate. And there's a big word for 250 years. It's a I don't know. I will not get it right. But it's like a sesquicentennial. I don't know. It's a long word, but it is. That's the correct word to celebrate it. Also, we are having our day of service, and I know that I've told you all about this many times, but on October 14th, we're going to meet at the Coombs Center, and then we're going to disperse throughout the town to do things that different organizations and people need, and to help them out. And if you cannot participate, there will be donation bins at the Coombs Center for anything from food for the food bank to diapers to hygiene supplies to anything that these organizations might need. So check out our website if you're looking to help come volunteer that day or to donate. We'd love to have you. If there's no more council member reports, then we'll move on to our appointments to boards and committees. Is it your pleasure to go into closed session to discuss this? I'll ask the council. It looks like we need to appoint 3 members for the new positions on the Veterans Advisory Board. We need an appointment to fill the unexpired term of Richard Morgan on the Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee, and an appointment to fill the expired term of Janet Woolwine on the Infrastructure Advisory Committee. Would we like to go into closed session to discuss?
Probably. I don't believe we have enough applications.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we have enough applications, period. Do we wanna table some of those till next time, or do we wanna go ahead and appoint the ones that have applied, or?
Well,
Looks like we have 2 applications to the Veterans Advisory Commission Board. I'm checking on this to be sure. And we need 3.
I almost feel like we ought to advertise that one for another 30 days just to see if we can, they get competitive,
We need a race.
We have 1 person.
aren't we gonna have to have a person to have a quorum infrastructure? I believe we are.
We're losing 2.
Yeah, we have 1 applicant for it, but yeah, right in our packet. Yeah, so we're losing 2.
So if you want to go ahead and, there's only 1 person who has applied for that position. If you want to go ahead and do that one, then that's fine. You can entertain a motion. And then I think there are 2 who are interested in Sinking Spring, but one of those is the person interested in infrastructure. So we could do those 2 and hold off on the Veterans Advisory, or we could go ahead and appoint the 2 people we have.
I'm okay with appointing everybody who applied personally, but that's, that's something.
And then we did have 1 person for infrastructure that had applied previously, but not in the packet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has to be just reconsidered or considered, so.
Maybe we ought to go into closed session.
Yes, I think that's the best course of action, I agree. Okay, here's our motion.
That's on the bottom of the agenda.
Oh, it's on the agenda. Okay. Who would like to read that? Would you like for me to do it? I can. Okay, we're going to go into closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended, Section 2.2-3711A1, for the purpose of considering applications for appointment to the positions on the Veterans Advisory Board, Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee, and the Infrastructure Advisory Board.
Second.
Second. That was the motion, right?
Yes, yes. So I made the motion. Mr. Webb seconded. Kim, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion.
Aye.
to reconvene.
We need a second to his motion.
Oh, we need a second to reconvene in open session.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Webb, second by Mr. Austin.
And then I'd like to move.
We need to vote, sorry. Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion?
Aye.
And I move that the town council certify that in closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matters or matter specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion.
Mr. Austin, do
I
you so
so
certify?
certify.
Ms.
I
Quetch?
so certify.
Mr. Webb?
I so certify.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
I so certify.
And Mayor Pillion?
I so certify. Okay, so now that we're out of closed session, do we have a motion for our appointments to boards and committees?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Carl Maiden to the Sinking Spring Cemetery. For the Veterans Advisory, I'd like for us to make a motion for Cade Parks, Vicki Bennett, and John Lance be appointed, and also to re-advertise the Infrastructure Advisory Committee.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, Kim, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
And Mayor Pillion?
Aye. Okay, I think that concludes our business for this evening. We are hereby adjourned.